Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Canon 6D for a bit of street photography. I'm going to be showing you some of the behind the scenes footage and some of the pictures that I took and talk you through a little bit about the compositions and ideas that I had when I was taking the pictures. What attracts me to certain scenes what I'm kind of looking for, so maybe you can learn something from that as well. Now for this shoot I'm using the Canon 6D, this is the Mark 1 with the 50mm 1.8 STM, and I had it set at f2 for the entire shoot, and I had it set at a 50th of a second for the shutter speed as well, which you have to be a little bit careful and be steady at 50th of a second because you're right on the same as the focal length. So that's the minimum though, it's not a guideline. You don't want to be going any slower than that with the shutter speed. But what I do then is I just adjust the ISO as needed. So that's the only thing that's changing in terms of the exposure settings. It's just my ISO going up and down. The 6D Mark I's got a really good reputation for being a very good low light camera, and essentially I'd agree with that. I think it's a very good low light camera. And you'll see when I'm shooting with the 6D that I'm working off the back screen. The reason I'm doing that is really so you guys can see what I'm doing. That's kind of like the primary reason, but also I like shooting like this when I'm doing stuff, because street photography, the type that I do is slow. You don't need to have, fast focus or anything like that. If you want to set up like this, I have got a video, but I think it's for the 5D Mark II, but it's basically the same settings. So you can see that on my channel, and I'll put a link up for you for that as well, so you can set the camera up like the way I'm shooting if you want to. So in these pictures I've got a mix of more straightforward traditional street photography and some of my interior shots that I'd like to do. So there's a little bit of a mix in this one. Right, so let's get into the video now and we'll start looking through some of these pictures. So in this first picture, this is an alternative angle on a picture that I've taken a couple of times before. The thing that drew me to this was these metal bars that are going down in front of us, which kind of says that this world isn't for the people outside. That's what it made me feel like. And I saw this incredible design inside that looks like something from an old movie, with all of this lighting which has been expensively made and expensively done. And there's this thing in London where everyone wants to have wasted space on the ground floors of buildings. So what that means is this floor space here is incredibly expensive if you work it out per meter. And the kind of display of wealth is to just not put much in it and turn it into something that's a nice design. So it's non-functional, essentially. It's more for aesthetics. Yes, there's some seating areas, but most of the floor space is unused in terms of money making. So they like to do this kind of thing where they just show off that they can waste the space and just make it look kind of appealing to look at. And I like this, but I thought that the bars coming down, I tried to include that rather than go up to the window, because I think it's kind of more interesting to make it clear that you are definitely on the outside looking in. So walking on to the next location, one of the things I've wanted to experiment a bit with my photography, with my street photography, because I've been doing this stuff where I'm sort of looking into buildings, seeing these interiors that interest me. But I wanted to start playing around with the idea of blurring a foreground. So obviously by focusing on something that's inside, but getting close enough to the buildings, but showing part of the structure of the window areas and so on, and having that blur in the foreground and maybe a little bit dark. And I've been finding some opportunities to do that. And the reason I want to do that, which you'll see in these next pictures, is because I think it gives that feeling of looking in, rather than if I just put the camera completely up to the glass and look in, you just feel like you're in the building already. Whereas if you blur some of the outside and shows, if you step back just a little bit, so that's how I'm doing it. I'm stepping back slightly, I'm not getting quite as close, and including some of the stuff that's towards the outside of the building or having some objects there, it gives you that feeling that you're looking in. It's more like you're an observer. So let's have a look at these pictures now. So this first one, this is inside a noodle bar, and it looks like it's closed, but it's not. But I wanted to try this idea, and a couple came in a minute, so I'll show you that picture in a moment with people in it as well. This was me trying to use this idea of blurring some of the stuff in the foreground like this, so you see these dark patches that are closer to the camera, and we get more of a sense that we're looking in. So when I went to take the next picture, where a couple came along because they were picking some food, some of these railing areas on the window, which I've now included rather than going closer. And so we get that feeling more that we're looking in, which I kind of like this vibe more. I think it's kind of interesting. Feeling that I wanted to give with these types of pictures is not so much that you're sort of spying on what's happening inside. It's the feeling of walking past when you see, oh, what's this place? What's it? What's inside? Let me have a look. And you see people looking, buying their food, and they're being lit by the stuff that's in front of them. And to me, it just sets off the entire tone of these buildings and places much better, which I liked. And it's the same again for the next couple of pictures as well. So here in the next one, this is someone working, I think, in a sort of a sushi noodle place. So it's one of those sorts of things. And I'm behind the counter in this perspective, which is seeing it more from the worker's perspective, if you like. Just again, looking through, but including some of these objects in the foreground. So as I'm looking through the window area, it gives a much more accurate feel of what I saw as I'm walking past. It's more true to life, I think. So I went through the high street at Liverpool Street Station. But the next picture that I'm going to show you now is my favourite of that day. This is a small Chinese restaurant down one of the side streets, and it had this bike propped up outside. It's propped up against all these old boxes. And for me, this was just so much about pools of light, how the lighting was falling on everything. And being able to see a couple of people eating through the windows helped, I think. But the bike helps tell a story. The whole atmosphere I felt in this picture was particularly strong. When I was approaching this, it had to be shot at an angle like this. I think it was vital because I needed to get these pictures, the duck, pig and chicken that are on the wall glowing in red in the background. And you see the Three Uncles sign that's lit above. But the bicycle resting for me just made this picture. And as soon as I saw it, I was just like, yes, this is really good, because the light that's coming out of that window where you've got those animal pictures is just bathing the bicycle in this little pool of light like this. To me, everything that has come together here, and even the rubbish bags are red, they're glowing red, like the sign is in the background. There's a lot going on, and I like that it's kind of scrappy and messy out the front with all these bin bags and boxes, and then there's this bicycle. This is, again, for me, very atmospheric and very true to life in terms of the mood that comes from an area like this. Looking at this picture is exactly how it feels in real life. Now, what I mean is it's not exactly quite how it looks, because obviously this has got a little bit more contrast in real life. And I think that the Canon 6D is just doing a very nice job with this kind of picture. The kind of tonal gradations that the Canon 6D gives are just so easy to work with. Especially when you're editing, you add contrast and you want to emphasize some of this stuff. Just handles it, and it's very quick and easy to edit like that. So I turned around and came back down the high street because I wasn't going to do much more because I'd done another shoot before this. And I see the Wasabi sushi shop at the end, and then this guy pulls up on his bike, one of the delivery riders, and he's on his phone, I guess, checking out the next location. And I thought these lights, these green lights coming off the shop, and then these circles that you get on the roof which guide your eye down towards him, I thought, yeah, I kind of got to take this shot. But then you get this red glow from this other sushi shop on the right hand side, which gives you the complementary colour to the green, and it just fitted together so well that I thought, yes, I've got to take this shot. This is not the kind of shot that I normally go for that much, especially with people being on phones. I think it's so cliche, but I think when sometimes it presents itself to you and you think, yeah, that kind of, everything's lining up here, the coloring's lining up, the location, everything's in the right spot, I'll just take the picture. And that's pretty much what happened here. And I do like the picture in the end. So what was the Canon 6D like to use on a shoot like this? Just effortless, really, very easy. It's small-ish camera. It's pretty small, so it's easy to carry around in this kind of situation. But the grip is so good on it, and ergonomics is really nice. And the way I was shooting with the screen on the back, I liked shooting like that with it. I found it an enjoyable experience. But the biggest thing for me was the files afterwards when I took them into Lightroom to edit. And I use my presets on these, which are available in the description down below. They're all edited very, very quick. And the presets there's only two of them. There's a light and a dark version. So they kind of, one of them's more grungy and more contrasty, and the other one's a little bit brighter. So this is how I'm editing all of these pictures, because when I'm doing the street photography, I just want to do it really, really quickly like this. It just makes the whole experience better. I don't mind taking much longer on portraits, but on street photography, I like my editing to be quick. It just feels more, I don't know, it just feels like the right way to edit for these things. It should just be quick, simple, and get the job done. And so I found that the 6D edited really nicely, wonderful files, very, very good camera. If you like this video, maybe you'll consider buying me a coffee. The link is in the description down below, and it is much appreciated. It does really help support this channel and lets me do more of these kinds of shoots and produce more of these videos. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I've got a studio portrait photography editing workshop in the link down below as well, where I teach you Photoshop and Lightroom skills to a pretty high level, so you can see how I edit my portrait photos that I do. Drop me a comment as well if you've got anything to say, and I'll try and get back to you. And I will see you again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.